Hi, Billy here from the Akamai Connected Cloud. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see my talk on portability and open source and the power of it all. I'm going to be talking about cloud native versus platform native versus cloud agnostic. I'll be covering the benefits of a portable design, as well as the crisis of cloud waste, and how a portable strategy will help you future-proof your success in this rapidly evolving cloud landscape. I hope you enjoy it. If you see me at a show or on LinkedIn, please come say hello. I want to hear from you. Bless. Hello. My name is Billy Thompson. I'm a Solutions Engineering Manager for the Akamai Connected Cloud. And I am just so amazed at all of the cool stuff that is happening in the cloud. I am constantly impressed with the products, innovations, and achievements that we never thought were possible. But we're doing it. You are doing it. You all hold great power in this space. You really do. And I want that power to stay in your hands. I want your innovation to continue pushing us forward. And of all the things that can get in your way, your cloud provider shouldn't be one of them. And that is why I want to talk to you about the power of portability. Let's start with some key terminology. Cloud native. I know, some of you have been beat over the head with this 1,000 times, but others are still getting acquainted. So it boils down to an approach or technique for rapid development and deployment that leverages technologies that take advantage of the elasticity and agility and scale and flexibility of on-demand resources in public, private, and hybrid cloud environments. That's my narrowed down definition. The Cloud Native Computing Foundation governs the longer official definition, and they do an excellent job at nourishing an ecosystem of open source, vendor-neutral projects that enable cloud-native development. They do a fantastic job at promoting portability, but their official definition of cloud-native lacks enforcement of portability. You can develop an application that has a cloud-native design pattern, containers, service meshes, APIs, and so on, but that is built in a way that it can only run on a particular platform. And that's what we refer to as platform native. For example, you may be leveraging a provider's managed Kubernetes service, and that service itself may be CNCF compliant because it meets their standards of portability. That service itself may be interoperable, but the application you deploy on that service may be built in a way that it wraps around tools and other managed services that only exist on that particular platform. That workload is not portable. It is vendor locked. It is stuck there. And the longer it is stuck there, the longer and more difficult it can be to untangle from that. Compare this to cloud agnostic, where we can take the same example using a provider's managed Kubernetes service, only instead of having the application wrap around the platform native tools, instead it leverages open source tooling that provides the same or similar functionality. Open source tooling that can run anywhere. And then from a platform perspective, you are only running on the core cloud infrastructure primitives. Just things like compute, storage, networking. And in today's world, we can even extend that to include things such as load balancers or Kubernetes engines. The things that you will find on all of the cloud infrastructure providers. That workload is portable. By the end of this talk, I want you to consider how you can be cloud native in a way that is cloud agnostic. And then we have this thing called cloud waste. Recent studies over the past year or so suggest that over 90% of business and IT leaders who rely on cloud computing say that billing is the most complex and confusing part of their cloud experience. Nearly half of them struggle to get their cloud spend under control. And roughly 1/3 of that cloud spend is cloud waste. What I happen to notice about these studies and analysis around them is how relative they are to the hyperscalers, the big three that most people are using, some of whom can and have and probably will again stand before you and say that the solution to this problem is to use more of their stuff. Use their tools to help you better use their tools. That is interesting, I think. They offer a plethora of these platform native tools that are sold to you as solutions to make things easier for you by abstracting away the complexity and the operational overhead that you would otherwise be burdened with having to run and manage these workloads yourself on their platform. In the broadest definition, cloud waste simply refers to unnecessary spend on cloud services. But to understand our cloud spend, we have to account for more than just the monetary amount we throw with these cloud services. You need to factor in the time and energy and headache spent constantly battling to get your cloud bill under control. You need to factor in the amount of time and resources spent making architectural, application, and in some cases, even business decisions around your understanding and ability to use these tools. And you need to factor in the resources spent on talent acquisition, having to hire very specific talent. For example, someone who is AWS certified developer or practitioner, someone who is further along the learning curve, who can hopefully help you better use these tools that were there to make it easier for you by abstracting away the hard stuff, but they weren't that easy to use, so you had to hire someone to help you use the tools to make it easy for you. And it feels like we're stuck in a loop that is underserving and ever spending, a real loop that is stunting to the growth and potential of organizations in this space. And I'll give you an example. Multicloud. Every day I hear this term because every day there are more and more organizations who wish to adopt a strong, durable, multi-cloud strategy. And not because they believe in some ideology, but because they can see how it will strengthen their position in this space. They can see hurdles in front of them and how this will help them overcome those hurdles and get to the finish line in first place. They can see it as a tactical approach to succeed in their mission. So what's the holdup? When I speak to clients who have all their eggs in the basket of one hyperscaler, the most common answer I hear is, we think that will be too complex for us. And as they go on to explain, what I begin to gather is their frame of reference for what it is like to run this workload in the cloud based on their experience of doing so on this particular cloud provider. Now, this is our opportunity to educate them on the art of the possible of what's out there, to think outside the loop, to find grass that is potentially greener and healthier and tastes better and easier to eat and digest. But without that exposure, if my frame of reference is only my experience and pain of one cloud provider, then honestly, I would probably feel the same way they do. I would be afraid to take that step forward, even when I know it's good for me, because I could not imagine having to multiply the struggle of one cloud provider by adding another. A loop that is stunting to the growth and potential of organizations in this space. Compare this with another example. I had a client. They did some shopping around and they arrived at a strategy. Where they landed was, okay, we like your competitive pricing. We like your customer support. And we like your simplicity. So we have this core workload that we're going to put here on your platform. However, we have this other workload that is more bandwidth heavy that we're going to put on this other European-based provider because we did the math and found that for the size and type of workload, we can actually get better pricing on bandwidth there. Their customer support is not so great. Their platform is not the easiest to use. There are some things we don't like about that provider, but for this particular workload, we don't need those things. We can get by without them and just take advantage of the bandwidth pricing. And should that ever change, we can move that workload onto you as well, or somewhere we see a better fit. Solid! Here is an organization that has a durable multi-cloud strategy right out the gate. And not because they're chasing the buzzword, but because it made sense. It made sense. It made sense for them to squeeze all the juice they can from the fruit of the trees of these two cloud providers. As they should. They have the ability to move around, expand, contract, go this way or that way. Should their mission change or their product becomes stale or less popular or less relevant to the industry, and they need to pivot their business strategy. They have the means to pivot their architecture to support that. By architecting on open source and core cloud infrastructure primitives, they have relieved themselves of the complexity and platform dependence that would otherwise impede this strategy. They can evolve at the speed of the industry, and they can do so with minimal cloud waste. A portable design allows you to fine-tune the metrics that matter by striking a balance between three critical dials: cost, performance, and geography. So you want to reduce cost. You can identify your more data-intensive workloads that will run just fine on a lower cost provider. And then you have this more performance-thirsty workload that you put over here on this provider because they have, say, a greater abundance of beefier GPU instances. And then you have this workload over here that serves an audience in a very specific geographical region and requires low latency and data sovereignty. So you put it on a provider that better serves that area. A portable design allows you to commoditize cloud providers, in contrast to vendor lock-in, which limits your options and exposes you to a central point of failure for service outages and a vendor's pricing whims, or changes to a privacy policy that no longer sits right with you or your end users, or services that EOL or upgrade in a way that makes them no longer compatible with how your application uses them. These are things that can really put you in a bit of a scramble if you have nowhere else you can go. But this scramble can be avoided and replaced with durability by designing applications that run on commodity infrastructure on multiple cloud providers. Whether that's done in a way that's concurrent or in a way that you can quickly swap out providers, burst onto, or fail over to another provider. And consider this. You might diversify a stock market portfolio. Why? To mitigate the risk and impact should one sink. Therefore, I think you should consider diversifying your cloud portfolio for the same reason. And by doing so, you achieve a greater degree of availability and a greater defensive strategy for business continuity and disaster recovery. And despite a very popular narrative that says doing this inherently means you are signing up for more work or something harder or more difficult, no, it isn't. It does not have to be more work. It does not have to be more difficult. It can just be doing something different, taking a different approach to deployment. And different does not inherently mean difficult. I like to challenge this narrative because I hear it at talks, at conferences. I read it in blog posts and Twitter threads. But just because it's being broadcasted doesn't mean that's what I'm seeing in practice. When it comes to movement from platform native to cloud agnostic, from a position of vendor lock-in to a position of portability, what I'm seeing is the same size teams, the same engineers, just doing something different, taking a different approach to deployment. And sure, that may mean they have to learn something new. Perhaps they have to learn some new technologies, but at some point, they had to learn something new to get to where they're coming from. To be in this industry, learning is involved one way or another. So it's a matter of where you want to focus your learning. Do you want to focus on learning the ins and outs of a particular platform? Or do you want to focus on learning technologies and techniques that work with any platform? And now I'm speaking from my experience, from my frame of reference, and it is not the only frame of reference. You all have your own frames of references and your own experiences to draw on. And some of those may be very different than mine, and that's okay. Mine is not any more authoritative or more right than any of yours. But I'm speaking from mine, which is one that includes organizations who listened to the narrative, who bought the promise, and went all in on a provider and their managed services, and it did not serve them well. And that is why they are now talking to teams like mine to help them break free so that this never happens again. My reference is also one that includes startups. My company has a startup program. They get access to my team for consulting resources. I get to talk with them, learn about their product, see their architecture and how they're doing things. And what I'm seeing are startups with really good products that they got to market. And they have a portable architecture. What they don't have is some massive engineering team to keep it up and all these resources of a big company. And they're doing good this way. Despite a narrative that says the exact opposite, that says this is the worst thing startups can do, and that the best thing they can do is to abstract away all of it they can with a provider's managed services. I encourage you to challenge this narrative yourself, to seek your own truth in it. And some of you may find it. Perhaps in the past or in the future, you travel this road, and given the current variables at play at that point in time, you decided that a portable strategy wasn't worth it. But others will come onto this, some even being hesitant about it, only to find that you are pleasantly surprised, and to find yourself saying things like, wow, this really is not that bad, and perhaps we should have explored this sooner. This narrative, stares at you and goes, huh, whoa, well, if you're not going to use our managed services, then you are completely on your own to manage and scale and secure your resources. You are completely on your own to install, configure, and update software and ensure uptime. good luck. This assumes that you are going to do all of this in a way that is very manual, the old-fashioned way, as if you are going to log into every server in a database cluster one by one and do all of this with your bare hands. And if that is what you are doing, then yes, certainly, you could be signing yourself up for more work, something that is harder, more complex, or difficult, and error-prone, and that may require a larger team to keep up with, but you wouldn't be doing it that way. And you shouldn't be doing it that way. Just like you wouldn't manually comb through 1,000 photographs to pick out all of the ones that have cats and dogs. When you have AI at your disposal that can do that for you in a matter of seconds, you wouldn't crack a hard nutshell open with your bare hands. No, you use a nutcracker, a tool that is designed to make that process more efficient. You have industry standard, de facto, open source automation tooling at your fingertips. You have the ability to version control your cloud resources. You have infrastructure as code, tooling such as Terraform and Pulumi that leverage a provider's API to declaratively manage the state of your cloud infrastructure, in addition to other wrappers around a provider's API, such as CLI tools and SDKs. You have configuration management, tooling such as Ansible, Puppet, and Salt, with playbooks, plans, and formulas written as human-readable YAML files that work with agents, or in the case of Ansible, only an SSH connection, to declaratively manage the state of your software and system configuration with idempotency and protection from configuration drift through the same familiar Git interface you use to version control your application. You can use to version control all of the components it runs on. And if you are developing in a way that is cloud native, you should already be familiar with this type of declarative approach. This GitOps-like strategy is really flexible and powerful because it is not limited to just a single environment. It is a cross-platform operational framework that you can use to version control the state of a multi-cloud deployment, like a single pane of glass for managing all of your cloud resources across multiple environments on multiple providers. This is something you can really tune to a science. But on its own, this does not necessarily mean that you have portability. Recall my example from earlier with the application that is cloud native by design, but that is built in a way that makes it platform native. The same can be done with a GitOps-like approach. It will not stop you from living on an island. But what it does do is provide you a lifeboat so that you can leave that island and travel to another island of your choice or back to the mainland. This operational model lays the foundation for a portable architecture. with a fully codified workload and quality automation and a Git repository as a single source of truth, you have everything you need to quickly and efficiently replicate an entire environment. You have everything you need to automate the deployment of new environments, such as dev, staging, and test environments. And you have the means to quickly and efficiently stand up blue-green deployments. And since breaking free from a platform-native environment typically requires making changes to the application, and depending on how long it has been there, can be a significant amount of changes, this provides you a more streamlined method to achieve this task by enabling you to quickly and efficiently stand up a new environment that is modeled after the production platform native environment, where you can test swapping out the platform native components with the open source solutions that are free and provide the same or similar functionality in conjunction with CI/CD pipelines and your application's development branches, until you have everything tuned just right and you have feature parity. From here, you can proceed with a migration and cutover strategy and sever ties with the platform native environment. And what you have left over is a version controlled state of a fully portable environment that is documented, repeatable, and scalable. Now, it should be said that quality automation like this can take some time to build. It'll come together faster for some and longer for others, similar to the work that goes into containerizing an application to run in Kubernetes. Some organizations are able to containerize their application fairly quick, while for others, it can take some months. Quality automation can take some time to build out. And there may be a few iterations of it before you get it tuned just right. But once set up, this gives you something similar to the benefit you got from managed services, something that acts like an abstraction to the underlying resources, that does the heavy management lifting for you so that you can focus on the things that matter most: your application, your business, and your end users. And when it comes to these vendor locking scenarios and all of this cloud waste, if 1/3 of an organization's cloud spend is cloud waste, then I'm going to make the argument that what they're doing is harder, more difficult, more complex, more confusing, and a bigger drain on resources than doing things this way, the portable way. And it is my belief that your cloud provider should serve you, not the other way around. But unfortunately, with so many organizations battling this excessive amount of cloud waste, it very much seems the other way around. And no matter the reason, whether it's because they were consulted to do so, and now they're so wrapped up around platform native tools that they're unable to break free at the moment, or if it's because of confusion around a complex billing system, or trouble navigating a bloated platform, or even if it's just because they didn't know that there were other options. Whatever the reason, this much cloud waste, something is seriously wrong here. Now, we spend a lot of time on this topic of cloud waste. Over $26 billion a year of cloud waste. Ask yourself, what does this mean to your business? What is the compounding impact of 32% waste on top of the expensive premium prices of the hyperscalers? This could be an entire year's worth of marketing budget just thrown away. This could be just throwing away the salaries of 4 or more engineers needed to help you increase the robustness of your product and to deliver on the voices of your end users faster and to stay at the forefront and to be tomorrow's cutting edge. Can you really afford this much cloud waste? Can you afford to lag behind and get left behind? And furthermore, the point at which you are spending cycles building for a platform versus building with a platform is the point at which your movement is being restricted by that platform. To future-proof your success in this rapidly evolving, hyper-competitive space, you need to be flexible. You need to stay agile. And you need the ability to squeeze all the juice you can from the cloud resources available to you. If your cloud provider is making this difficult, then they are underserving you. Because as cloud providers, we should be supporting you and empowering you by making this as simple and accessible as possible. And the best thing you can do to hold us accountable to this, and I'm saying this as a cloud provider, the best thing you can do to hold us accountable to this, portability.